Recovery is possible, and no matter what your circumstances are, no matter what has happened to you or what's going on in your life, recovery is possible. It's something that can be learned. It's not the stereotypes you might think about, sitting around in a depressing room with people saying the Lord's Prayer. The options are pretty much limitless nowadays. And in recovery, you can reinvent yourself. You can become the person you were always meant to be and step into the full potential of the greatness of your life. It's been some of my work in the clinical field, working in a primary care-based addiction program. It's great that they have these things now. So helping people, pass the initial hurdle and then to provide education on what the many options are. There's kind of a science-based peer support program called Smart Recovery. There's a faith-based one called Celebrate Recovery. There's a Buddhist one, a couple of them actually. So, and then if you're not a person who wants to go to groups, there's certainly hybrid types of groups that are, there just might be a bunch of people meeting twice a month at a church in your town. And this is an example of something I've been participating in for the last few years. The different parts of the brain stop communicating, and this is where control is lost. That's why, it's easy to think that the person out there made their choice, woke up in the morning and just decided to do that, when in fact, the part of the brain that analyzes consequences and makes those kind of big picture rational decisions about what's best in someone's life, it's cut off from the part that says, step on the gas pedal, get some drugs or alcohol down your stat. We got a situation. What are you, crazy? Stop using? Yeah, it's like your brain and your body will get into an argument.
Keith Keller, how you doing, man?
Very well, thank you, Carl. It's my pleasure to join you today.
We've been communicating for a while. Now we finally meet, and this is really great. I'm really grateful and honored to have you as my guest. Grateful you took the time to join me, because the topic that we're going to talk about here is one that's rather close to my heart. From family things, but also, I know so many people, and I'm sure as we unfold this conversation, pretty much everybody knows somebody affected by an addiction, if you will. And
the degrees of separation are nil. They're gone. Everybody knows somebody, exactly.
Yeah, if they haven't experienced themselves or family member or multiple family members, friends, or whatever, it would be unheard of these days, I'd say, which is sad. But you've written this beautiful body of work here, this wonderful book, Infinite Recovery Handbook. Thank you. And I'm going to start our conversation with a couple of very short, sad stories. It's more of a statement, not a story. In the past year, here at my clinic, first of all, I know so many people, I've worked with so many people as clients and patients who have lost a child. Now, a lot of my people are in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. Two of these individuals lost a child to overdoses. And in both cases, these people who passed away, the children, they were fighting this, one for about 20 years. Because it started with an OxyContin prescription back in high school when he was playing football. And then that just led down the pathway of all kinds of problems. And then the other one, just on and off, 30 years plus of in and out of facilities and rehab and drinking a lot, not drinking, drug a lot, no drug. And then he just overdosed one day. He'd been clean for months, and then boom, gone, dead. So you have written this beautiful book, and let's talk about it. I'm curious to know your experience, and you run a center out there too. And just how are you seeing? Let's start with this question. How are you seeing this whole situation? I almost feel like it's an epidemic of proportions that are immeasurable, possibly. But I'm sure you have some data on that.
I have a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Where do I start with that? Let me clarify. I was running a program for a couple of years and moved on to other pursuits in the field. I've been kind of blessed to have racked up a bunch of great clinical experiences, opportunities have come my way, and it's just just broadened my horizons and the learning opportunities. It's a constant. As I like to say, there's many moving parts to the addiction problem. Yeah, so it's estimated that 40 million people out of the approximately 320 million in the country have last year were recorded to have a substance use disorder. That's a statistic from the National Institute on Drug Abuse, and that's between 1 out of every 8, 1 out of every 10 people in the country. So in the time frame of 1921 and I think into 22, opiate-related overdoses were at 106,000 for I think 21, and alcohol-related deaths, which are much less glamorous. Well, glamorous isn't the word, but less spectacular, less noteworthy somehow. They don't, unfortunately, this is a slow, tragic death where people die in their homes, hospitals, hospices, etc. That was 140,000. So nearly 250,000 people die annually of substance use disorder related problems. And yeah, maybe we can circle back to this, but the little rant would be that we're not paying attention to it on a scale that is appropriate to that. So, I didn't wake up one day and just write that book. I have been in abstinence-based long-term recovery coming up on 33 years next week. And,
Good for you.
and well, thank you. And, I say that I'm very transparent about that. And, in wherever it's appropriate, I might bring that up in a job interview or in certain community settings. And every time I do that, I'm basically, pardon the expression. Can I say this on your podcast?
You say
I'm
anything
kicking
you want.
stigma. I am kicking stigma in the nuts
Yeah.
when I do that. And maybe that's what it's going to take. A lot of people to just kind of come out and say, I'm a registered nurse. I'm a productive member of the community. I have rendered competent medical care to people, and recovery has made that possible. Yeah. So
Exactly.
I basically, my life became a mission early on in that process, and just been learning more and kind of putting that together, and I am where I am today, kind of on a mission.
First, I'll just say congratulations to you. 33 years coming up. But not just that. But you did create a mission. You have a mission, and you've been forging this pathway and doing so much good to help other people. And I think that we've seen. I just the first name that comes to mind is Rich Roll. Rich Roll has a podcast. He's been I don't know how many decades, 20 plus years sober maybe, and I can't remember what his abuse was, but the bottom line is he's on a mission too. So it's possible. First of all, it's possible. And when you say you're kicking it in the nuts, I think sometimes we just need to be blunt like that, blatant, because we have to hit people square between the eyes. Shock value is actually really important sometimes, because otherwise you're just kind of dancing around on eggshells beating around the bush. And this is nothing to beat around the bush with. I mean, one too many of this or one too many of that substance, if it doesn't kill you, it can make you make maybe a bad decision, which could change your life too, and your family's life, and other lives, and who knows? I mean,
Agree.
the possibilities there are endless in bad ways. So we also are mindful enough and creating however you how did you I'm curious alcohol my thing, right? I don't drink anymore. Yeah, so I can say that I just one day stopped cold turkey because I had to. I was making bad decisions. I weighed too much. I got hungry. I'm not even going to say all the things I did, but it wasn't good. I didn't kill anyone or hurt anyone physically. Didn't get arrested. Didn't go to jail. I did other things that were stupid and bad and dumb. Uh, I realized that I was enslaved to something. And why have power over something that, I mean, why would I allow power over something? You know, it's not that easy though. It's like because we have chemicals in our brain. We have brain neurons. We have dopaminergic pathways. Maybe I was born with extras. I don't know. Alcoholism runs in my family far and deep and long, both sides. So there's a genetic factor I know is there. But for me, it's a choice. I got to do good things. So I'm addicted to other stuff now. Helping people live a better quality of life. Hot sauce and coffee. There you go.
Yeah, I practice harm reduction with coffee. Caffeine is
Same
still.
here, baby. But what this is not about me. So I'm just saying, I'm putting it out there. That was my thing. Okay,
Well,
so this is about you. I want to talk about you, the addiction problem. Maybe if you want to talk about your experience at all, that's fine. Or what you're seeing, people, how you're seeing people, first of all, come to accept and let's say recognize that they have an issue and just deal with it and make a pathway forward. I'm real curious to know how people are going about these things.
well, let's not so fast there, Carl. You raised a really good point, and substance use disorder or an addiction. I define an addiction as a behavior, as in a substance use, where there is probably it's serving some purpose in the short term. It becomes more of a problem in the long term. Control is lost, and the domino effect of problems. And what you wind up with over time, the consequences are a co-opted brain and a pathologically conditioned body that is dependent on the substance and the brain, the dopaminergic pathways, as you so eloquently said, uh, become recalibrated to need the substance or the behavior, which can be
Yeah.
gambling or bad relationships or eating Cheetos or you know and so it comes
Yeah.
in as many different presentations as there are people who present with it. And that's remarkable that, it sounds like you just made a very powerful decision with conviction and perhaps more energy and intensity than the power of the power the substance had over you.
Yeah. Well, I think for me it came down to, after you do enough harm to some people, maybe family, let's just say family, and then they accept you still and they keep you in their lives and they don't kick you out, or if they do, it's not for long, or whatever. The hurt, it really hurts because I do have guilt. I went through all that, and I'm thinking, man, I can't even believe in the formative years, my children growing up, too, a son and a daughter, their memories of certain things, right? And this crap this is bullshit, man. This is what I went through in my house with, I'm not even gonna say what, growing up, and I have a choice. I have a power of free will, and this is bullshit. So screw it. I am done. And then because I can, I have free will. It doesn't mean it's easy though. oh my God, it doesn't mean anything. My greatest, dearest, closest friend who passed away 2 years ago, I would call her from a parking lot of a liquor store. Emily, yeah, I'm here. Don't go in. Now we talk about it. She'd be usually really nice about it, or sometimes not so nice. But either way, I wouldn't go in. So I was able to stay on the path. And now I actually don't have the urge to go into do any of that at all. But I do have urges to do other things like keep learning and learning and learning and find more coffee that I like from other countries. It's really, really good. So I've tried to rechannel where my reward comes from. Because this is like a reward thing. We're driven by dopamine to survive, reproduce, eat,
It serves a purpose. It helped
succeed,
us
and
get to the top of the evolutionary ladder. We're
yeah,
not in the food chain anymore. We're at the top of it. But we
yes,
still, yeah, we tend to, yeah, it's
yeah. So
interesting question.
it's fascinating to me some of the things I've read, and I haven't had time to go through your entire book yet and read it, but just skimming through, I love how you talk about everything. So I don't want to talk about me. I really think that though every person, and you will know more, way more. I only have my experience. You've seen so much, helped so many people. You must be seeing you must be seeing different pathways to success, if you will, to stay on the straight and narrow, do live a better quality of life, if you will. What Where do we go from here?
That's a really good subject to take up for a moment. Now, 30 years ago, 33 years ago, uh, there weren't a lot of different options. And I made the kind of decision that that we just spoke about, but I was a little too far down the rabbit hole. I was not going to get it done by myself, even though I knew and had decided that I needed to, that I wanted to, I was committed to. So I kind of am referring to the 12-step AA, Narcotics Anonymous, and this peer support self-help movement as the traditional model. Okay, so that's what my option was. And they've got a lot of things going for them. They engage you in a community of like-minded people who have the same goals. They suggest a few things. One of them is connect with a mentor. They call it a sponsor. That's somebody who has more experience, has been there and done it. And since they didn't have, when I got there, there wasn't somebody down front saying, okay, if I can get all the new people down here, we're going to show a short video and give out your policy and procedures manuals. No, it wasn't that organized. So the sponsor is your policy and procedures manual, your guidebook
Hmm.
in human form. And then you become accountable to
Hmm.
that person. And they've got a lot of knowledge about addiction and recovery. They used to call it alcoholism. Now we're trying to get into a more person-centered and strengths-based way of saying things. So I could say I'm a person in recovery from alcohol use disorder. At a peer support meeting, we still identify ourselves as, "Hi, I'm Keith. I'm an alcoholic or an addict."
Hmm.
Um, so they know a lot, essentially. I guess I'm gonna be all over the place if I'm not careful. They encourage a belief system, certainly, and they encourage people to perform acts of service. So those are, kind of the big elements that I noticed. But the main philosophy underpinning all of this is abstinence-based recovery. And I think with alcohol, that is a more clear cut and certainly simple to follow that and not split hairs. Now things are evolving, so that this abstinence based approach, while right for some, is not right for everyone.
Hmm.
And the traditional model, as I like to affectionately refer to it, It's been around for a long time. It was organically grown, uh, no science there. It sort of gets grandfathered in terms of being evidence-based, which is now very, very important in the treatment world. So what we're finding is that people, aren't always able to assimilate into that, and so we refer to many pathways to recovery as alternatives. So I've got a couple of I've got my motto, which is recovery is a skill that can be learned by anyone, and my core value is that we should all have an individualized approach to
Yeah.
recovery. So what I really encourage people to do is, first of all, make your decision, but then do a little investigation, do some, check out this type of meeting, or perhaps, coming out of, first of all, people, if they're dependent on a substance, need to go through a process of withdrawal, and have their systems detoxed or
Hmm.
detoxified, and so that there's sort of this big scary guard at the door to recovery. So you got to get past the doorman,
Sure.
and so what I first want to support people through that process, and that's been some of my work in the clinical field, working in a primary care based addiction program. It's great that they have these things now.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So helping people pass the initial hurdle, and then to provide education on what the many options are. There's kind of a science-based peer support program called Smart Recovery. There's a faith-based one called Celebrate Recovery. There's a Buddhist one, a couple of them actually. So, and then if you're not a person who wants to go to groups, there's certainly hybrid types of groups that are there just might be a bunch of people meeting twice a month at a church in your town. And this is an example of something I've been participating in for the last few years. And this combines
Beautiful.
people who have loved ones that might be in some stage of recovery, or that they have lost
Uh,
to, the ultimate catastrophe of accidental overdose, or people in recovery themselves, and it's another alternative. And I'm good friends with the facilitators. One of whom is a local pastor who has a distinction of, I think I heard him say, 78 eulogies for
oh,
young people who have overdosed. So that's a calling for him for sure.
oh boy,
Um,
man.
So the many pathways could include, after detox, a residential experience, where decide you want to go live in a program with other people who are in recovery, varying degrees of supervision and structure in these, or if you want a little extra measure of support, you can get into something called an intensive outpatient program, where you might go every day after work, or in the morning, or
Mhm.
some of them are all day. And then there's something called structured outpatient addiction program, SOAP, another variation
Right.
on these things. So they keep coming up with new ideas, and that's what we need. Enough different options so that people can find the best fit.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, I wasn't aware of a lot of that stuff. I didn't know there was faith-based, didn't know. I haven't really looked into it, though. Part of the reason is I did my own pathway. I just stopped, and that was it. I didn't go anywhere for help. I'm not saying to, and by the way, anybody listening or watching, please realize you need to do, if this is something you want to overcome, is that a word, or effectively work through, um, you gotta find what works for you. I don't do groups. I'm not against groups at all. I just replaced, I end up replacing things. I mean, people do, right? An addict will find something to replace a lot of times. Me, exercise, coffee, hot peppers, and learning. and helping people. So, I mean, those work out to be pretty healthy. But
Well,
uh,
you seem to have developed a community.
oh, yeah, we have. So we have a
There's many
community.
types of communities, and
With
it
I was
meets that
just
need.
thinking about that, Keith. When
Yeah.
you mentioned soap, faith based, or maybe it's more of a well, whatever. Community is so important. And so in my community, I have different communities I'm in. There's only a couple. There's the one here, and then there's the one not here, which is more of my traveling and teaching community who I'm with often. But here, I mean, community is really important, and we do have a positive in my clinic where I am right now. This is where I do these from. This is a positive glass half full. It's always half full, even when it's empty. It's full because it can be, theoretically speaking. It's an analogy of supporting each other with whatever it is we're dealing with. For some people, it's sugar addiction, it's food addiction, it's smoking, it's vaping. It's not illegal. It's not illegal to eat all the sugar in the world. It's not illegal to vape or smoke cigarettes. It's not illegal to drink booze for most if you're of age. The problem is, and I wanted to go back to this, so my ADHD is sort of kicking in because I want to circle back to you did mention the slow death. And that's something I've done a lot of thinking about because if you think about that cigarette, I was never a smoker, but I would watch people. Ah, just one more. Oh, for me. Oh, just one more. Give me another Kahlua vodka, please. Tastes like liquid candy. It's not gonna. That drink won't kill me. That particular one. Oh, let's have just one more because the next one that won't kill me either. The problem is, years later, decades later, my liver's all out of whack, and that took years to get under control. So the liver numbers are perfect now for a few years.
Oh, good.
Thank you, God, and the hard work I did. But yeah, community. You have to find what will work, but actually knowing, like having you here to share with us these things. I hope this. I know it'll help people. If we help one person from this, I'm a happy camper. You're helping me anyways, just by being here and learning. But so there are a lot of different programs out there. I suppose it depends upon what area you're in and what's available in each area. But are there online communities too?
Yes, there are. Uh,
Ah,
a variety of them. And the one positive thing that came out of the pandemic was a real growth in the uh, opportunities or options for participating in recovery online because the in-person meetings had to then most of them developed a Zoom uh, alter ego, and now some of them have remained hybrid, some of them have remained online.
okay.
At the beginning of the pandemic, now I have a small, you're probably aware of it, the Infinite Recovery Support and Discussion Group. Been on Facebook for 5 years,
Yeah.
around the time I brought out the last book. And we've been holding steady at right around 1,000 people. There's tremendous engagement. So this is a connection, that people can have. I'm at the other end of direct messaging. If anybody wants to do that, and I do get messages sometimes urgent, sometimes
Mm,
uh,
yeah.
critical, looking for and so I bring everything I have. I'm a registered nurse. I've studied alternative and energy medicines, and also the science-based motivational approach. And all these things are, sort of combined in the book. But up to declaring, okay, this is not official medical advice. Obviously, sometimes that needs to be said. Or you need to go see a doctor right now. Or, sometimes that's the situation. But I'm usually able to sort of help people to, without giving them some kind of pronouncement or projecting my ideals, my personal opinions, just sort of help them arrive at, ask themselves the right questions and arrive at answers. And this is all internet based in,
Well,
in many cases. Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, a lot of good things came out of COVID, oddly enough, that I can teach
there
online
are
and not
some
have
for
to
sure.
go to Dubai and do it. Not that I have anything against Dubai. It's just a long trip, and I don't like to
It's a
travel that
long
far.
plane ride. Yeah, I'm not a.
One time there was enough for me. It's a beautiful place, but I'd rather sit here and teach them. Um, I'm looking in your table of contents. I'm curious to know when I want I don't want to talk about me. I want to talk about
That,
you and
that
your.
that's a little bit where my sense of humor might come through. I've been accused of bringing a
Oh,
little humor to a topic
oh,
that
it's good, but when we think about the first thing to consider is the question: are you addicted? I think that in itself, from personal experience, of course I'm not. Are you kidding me? There's no way. No, I can control myself. I'm okay. I
yeah.
mean, how much of that do we see, right? Before we actually say, okay, you know what, you're right, or whatever, I am.
We are
And
often the last. We're the
what am I going
last
to do
one.
about it? Yeah.
We're the
What am I
last
going to,
one to get the memo, and
yeah.
usually everybody else in our life knows, and doesn't quite know how to say something about it or what to do.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple of questions one could ask themselves. This is a good approach with people who especially with something so sensitive, so stigmatized, so um, personal. How bad does it have to get?
Oh,
Or here's a kicker. What if someone else was doing to you all those things that beer or cannabis or opiates are doing to you? Would you be pissed? Would
mm-hmm.
you be ready to fight? Would you be ready to do something for yourself? Yeah.
So there's an interesting, not, trust me, I've thought about this a lot. And it kind of goes back to that thing where this one won't kill me. This one can't damage me that bad. This one, or I didn't smoke, but maybe this one cigarette. And I think one of the biggest challenges was realizing the cumulative effect. Well, the blood work showed some stuff, so maybe somebody might want to get their blood work checked and see what their liver's looking like. Because livers are hard to come by. They say they regenerate themselves. Yeah, doesn't mean it's the
But
cure.
you have to give them a chance to do that. Yeah.
And you can't be an addict and get a liver transplant usually, because they
Yeah.
want somebody who's going to be not an addict. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know technically how it works. I just know that I know somebody who wanted a liver transplant. She can't get one.
They want to know that you've made
She's
some changes. Yeah.
she's still, down in the brewskis from her kitchen tap.
Well,
Anyways, I'm
so
not judgment. I'm not being judgmental. That was me. So I mean, been there, but I worked through exercise and fatty liver disease, alcohol, and then non-alcohol fatty for a while. Um, I I was able to reverse the bad effects of all the crap. As far as I know, so far blood work's been perfect for a few years, but it takes work. I'm kind of going off here. I really didn't intend to do that, but I like this. We're the last ones to get the memo, maybe. And then what are we going to do about it? That's an interest right there. You could stop for that and just
well,
go
these
and
are the stages of
yeah,
uh, there's an official technical name for that. People go through what they call the stages of change. They're in a state of pre-contemplation. They don't even know there's a
ah,
problem. They're innocent.
yes,
They're in contemplation. They're thinking about it, and they move on from there. But you can't really push people from stage to stage. The
yeah,
approach is to just sort of help them formulate the right questions in their own minds. So that hence here's the question.
yeah,
Are you addicted to something? And then the logical next question, yeah, what are you going to do about it? The I'm not a big believer that there is a so-called addictive personality, but there are, certain traits that are more about human nature, I think, than addiction. And with a behavior that affects our motivation, pleasure, reward system so closely, it's very logical that we're going to rationalize. And I coined the phrase, we are peak performance rationalization machines, engineered to protect our bad habits. And so it's better today in some ways because, well, it's the double-edged sword. We see it's constantly going to be in our attention span. What's going on with addiction. The country's just not going to be able to keep ignoring it the way they are. 1 out of every 8 or 10 people, come on. And the death tolls, I'll come back to my rant later as promised, but for people to ignore their problem, it's just becoming harder and harder. And there is a lot more help out there if you open up, put in the keyword recovery or addiction and go to Amazon.com. It's a pretty crowded space out there. There's dozens, hundreds of me running around out there, running around writing books and working on helping people. So eventually, as I said, there's many pathways to recovery. There's many approaches, and we need many people bringing many ideas.
Yeah, I think that's is really provoking a lot of thought for me because the stigma, that's a big deal, or I should say it can be a big deal. I mean, at this point, man, I don't even care what people think of me is none of my business. But also not. That's my motto, and I have many models. But it's not that I don't care about people. It's just that I'm going to be me and transparent. Elizabeth just walked by. Say hi to Keith.
Hi, Keith.
Hello, nice to meet you.
She's amazing, and she knows all my crap, just like most people here do, because we end up talking about it. It's really interesting. So I'm going to digress for one moment. The reason that addiction comes up often in my clinic is because, if you will, and I'm not trying to impress anybody, it's not my ego, trust me, I'm known around the world for my work in the Parkinsons and movement disorder arena, but particularly Parkinson's, although we work with all humans. But when you look at the dopaminergic pathways in the person with Parkinson's or Parkinson-like diseases, especially when we're dealing with the substantia nigra and the death of brain cells in that particular area that are high production dopamine, that's a high production dopamine production center. So besides the fact that dopamine is it's a driver towards success, reproduction, and getting to the top of the food chain, it's also a neurotransmitter that's one of them that helps us to control movement, right? So hence falls being the number one concern for a person with Parkinson's. Now, we can bring in the dopamine replacement medications like Cinemet, levodopa, carbidopa.
Administered a few of those in my day, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So now those can be very, very effective. And I'm not a doctor, so I just qualify that I'm not saying to change your dose, go up, go down, stop it, start it. You're going to see your doctor about that. But what I notice from, really thousands of people now over the years is that there is sometimes a little addiction problem when the dosage is too high. Because they'll get into things like hypersexuality, hyper shopping, gambling, things that just are no good. They go to the neurologist, get it tweaked. But either that stuff or they just go to sleep if it's too high, which isn't nearly as common. But that there are other factors like that change in the brain from a movement disorder and a medication introduced that can actually cause addictive type of behaviors, if you will. So that's another area to be concerned about, folks, if you happen to know anyone in that category. Just consider the fact that their dopamine medication is not the right dose.
I actually heard about that years ago. I was probably working in long-term care, and it came up in somebody's particular case. And I'd forgotten about that. You see, that's why doing these things is great, because this is a two-way conversation, Carl. And I think that's the thing that kind of got us on each other's radar, is the all the neuroscience that I saw you
Yeah.
posting about. Naturally, you had you were doing something called the Neuro Brothers, and like, what?
Oh,
That, that
yeah.
got my attention, and
The
then
Neuro Bro show with Russ Parker. Yeah.
yeah.
We should
Um,
revive that. That was fun.
but the the neuroscience is, I believe it's the future of recovery. I was
Yeah.
just kind of working on I'm working on my next book, and I was thinking, the world hasn't beaten a path to my door yet,
Hmm.
and it reinforces that there are many approaches to recovery, and I've got my outcome, which was really good, as evidenced by 33 years, and my way of life is I'm very neutral about substances, and I
Hmm.
could just, oh, no table available, but we can sit at the bar now. Great, we're there. I don't sweat this stuff. It's been years since I've
Yeah.
even had a thought, and even when things in my life occasionally go sideways, it's not going to fix. It's not my thought process to think about resuming use. But
Yeah. Me neither.
the
By the way, I just want to say congratulations on that, because that took years for me to get to the point where it's not even. First of all, it wasn't the first thought in my mind, nor was it the second or third. And for it to actually become a non-thought anymore, that's a long time. But I think it also has to do with maybe a neuroscience element of changing your behaviors, because that
very much so.
rewires the brain, right? And if you're programming yourself now to succeed without that, hopefully, eventually it gets to where you're at, where I'm at, where this is not on our radar anymore. I'm not going to go and
Yeah,
buy that,
well, that's
you
a
know.
high end outcome, but
Yeah,
the process that got me there, okay, that's not going to work for everybody.
nope,
I
it
just
won't.
had my unique experiences, which worked for my circumstances, my personality, my interests, etc. So by publishing a couple of books that outline a recovery model based in neuroscience, doesn't mean that everybody else is going to sit down and start meditating for 20 minutes a day,
Sure.
um, and go into this deep meditation state called dynamic meditation, where you're actually rewiring stuff in your behaviors. You go into the hard drive of your mind. And what do you do if you want to make some changes in your computer? You open up the system, do a few
Yeah.
drop downs, and add or delete a program.
Yes.
Our brains are not dissimilar, and I believe that this could be a bright future for recovery. However, the process is a little daunting. So this is my mission to take the language, take the work of the leaders in the field. Nora Volkow sits there looking at brain scans all day, and bless her, and she finds that the dorsal tegmentum disconnects from the nucleus. I'm messing up my terminology right now, but the different parts of the brain stop communicating, and this is where control is lost. That's why it's easy to think that the person out there made their choice, woke up in the morning and just decided to do that, when in fact they're the part of the brain that analyzes consequences and makes those kind of big picture rational decisions about what's best in someone's life. It's cut off from the
Yes.
part that says, step on the gas pedal, get some drugs or alcohol down here, stat. We got a situation. What are you, crazy? Stop using? Yeah, it's like your brain and your body will get into an argument.
And the way you're putting this is beautiful, first of all. And it just reminded me, and I cannot find this author. I'm looking for this guy. You've probably heard of him. What he basically talks about is in this book, which I also don't know the name of. This author who also does
Let's
workshops.
figure it out together, Carl.
There's a guy. Okay, I don't know his name. It's Joe somebody. Joe.
Dr. Joe?
Dr. Joe. So he was talking about meditation and brain imaging of people meditating.
Ah,
It,
yeah.
it,
No,
am I,
that would be Dr. Joe Dispenza.
that's it. Thank you.
He's one of my mentors.
I have
I, I,
figured.
I've
I
done
don't know
his work to
why.
the advanced level, yeah, a
No
few
way.
years
Oh
back.
my
Yeah.
gosh. Oh, we got to have another conversation
Oh,
off
oh
record
no,
because
I met the guy when you could have a conversation with him. He's a brilliant, brilliant guy, and so
yeah.
he's got this model that is based on a lot of these same things. And if people like him were gearing their programs for the particular circumstances, problems, and experiences of people with substance use disorder and addictions, well, I'd have a garden and better abs because now
Excuse me.
and I was kind of saying when I was writing my first book, I well, yeah, I can think of about 100 people better qualified and equipped to write this, but they aren't doing it.
Well, so what really impressed me about him in that book, I mean, there are a million things, and it's been a couple of years since I read it, but the fact that the people are skeptical about this at all. Just look at the brain imaging from MIT. That's not too far from you, right? You're in
Yeah,
Massachusetts.
yeah, that's
Okay, so
right
you got
down the road.
MIT, and what shows happening during meditation. Now, there's the active meditation measurement, but also there's the how the brain looks after months or years of basically doing meditation. There are other things too, and you probably have you done the work, then you know.
I did a presentation at a regional conference on the benefits of meditation and recovery with
So this is like a
stats,
real
brain scans, and oh yeah,
legit thing where we can actually rewire the brain so that we can be different, function different. The core of us stays, yeah, I'm still Carl Sterling, but and you're still Keith Keller, but we can change what's going on here, just like my laptop I'm on now. Yeah, I can change what's in there with a few keystrokes. But I find it fascinating that there's actually image to show this shit actually can be done, and that it can be effective for for anyone watching. I just can't even emphasize
no,
enough the
it's
power in
real.
this. The power in
It's
this.
real, and if you
Yeah.
think about the behaviors that we learn, sometimes it takes time.
Mm-hmm.
And the traditional model of recovery, if you show up and go to meetings and get a sponsor and work the steps and don't screw the thing up by drinking or using, eventually you're going to get there. But why not make it a little more deliberate? Why not make it a little more precise? Why do we have to sift through a dump truck load of coal to get to a few diamonds, right?
I love it.
So yeah, the meditation is a very intentional. First, you learn how to do a basic meditation. You gotta walk before you can run. But then we can go into a meditation and connect to the possibilities. And this is where the little bit of quantum influence comes into this, and
It's one of my favorite words. I love the word
also
quantum.
also epigenetics.
Yeah.
Because when every time we have a thought, it sends an chemical signal to a part of our body, a gland, a protein, or something is produced. And what that translates to is a feeling in our body. And eventually, so I have an anxious thought, and that will create an anxious feeling in my body, real physical manifestations of anxiety, like sweaty palms, or my stomach is in knots, my pulse increases, my blood pressure goes up, etc. And feeling that way only sends back a signal, and I double down on the thoughts, right? So now I've got this loop going. And that's the source of anxiety, depression. Why can't we harness that for a more positive outcome? Like
That
like
loop you just said, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
no,
So the loop, I was just going to say, these thoughts can be on repeat. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Hit the
yeah.
replay button. The problem is, what I find is, if when I've gone into those modes of negative, let's say, or less than desirable thoughts, repeat, repeat, repeat. That's just hardwiring those neurons to keep
Oh,
repeating, and it's almost like creating a superhighway of negativity. So you got to create an off ramp somewhere, and start to develop another highway to dominate and replace. And
synaptic pruning would
thank you.
be the technical
That's a
term
beautiful, beautiful
term for that. Well,
term.
no,
No,
that's.
that's the term of the day, man. I'm writing that one down.
But if you think about how we learn behaviors, so most of us drive cars nowadays,
Yeah,
right? The first time I got in the car for the purpose of driving, sat behind the wheel and said, "Oh, wait a minute. There's a lot going on here. I got to do the
yeah,
steering and the pedals and the turn on the engine, and I have to know where I'm going and not kill people and follow the traffic regulations. Damn it, Dad made it look so easy. What? But fast forward to a month, and I'm kind of doing it, okay, carefully, but but now in the present moment, I get in the car, switch on the engine, pull out, and unless something crazy happens, okay, I have thought about last weekend, next weekend, what I need at the store,
yeah,
everything but the
yeah.
road. But
Hmm.
I still stop at the lights, signal for turns, do all. So I've gone from being uh, consciously unskilled when I can't drive a car yet to unconsciously highly skilled. How did I get there? Exactly what you said. A neuron superhighway was blazed and built from a little neural footpath. Is how
Sure.
that started. And you go and I like I love the analogy of playing a tricky drum beat. That one was in my first book. So I'm stumbling through it. It's got some complicated polyrhythmic thing, maybe some figure with the left hand that is baffling, and I'm sending the impulses are going from my brain to my two arms, two legs, feet, and I sort of stumble and stagger the rhythm out. The next day I go back to do the same thing, and the brain says, "Oh, he's doing this again. Wait a minute, we got to get organized here." And it sort of sends out, the little dendrites to connect, and pretty soon, you've got a bigger pathway. And this is how, learning takes place. Automatic things we do started out as things we had to really, really work at doing. So the behaviors of addiction are occupying pretty significant neural highways. Wiring in the new behaviors of recovery is the challenge.
You're a drummer too.
Yeah, yeah.
I had forgotten about that because that was my former career. That was it.
Oh, yeah. No, I know.
Yeah,
We got a
yeah.
lot of overlap for
We
sure.
do. Oh my God,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah, I can totally relate to that polyrhythmic thing in independence. And I'll tell you, just digressing for 10 seconds, singing and playing drums same time, forget about it.
Haven't done it since high school.
I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do it. Never did it. I tried. It failed. I didn't try again. Well,
I did it.
I
I
didn't
did
want to sing anyways. It's not my thing, you
I
know.
did it in high school, and then got into a cover band for 2 years that had a lead singer and two brothers and a sister, guitarist, bassist, and female lead vocal. Just come learn the drum parts. I
Yeah.
never sang again.
So, favorite drummer? Do you have one? Because I got
Uh,
like 20 of them. I got
yeah,
50 of them. Yeah.
I have several. Yeah, so I don't. We're gonna have to save this conversation
We'll
for
save that
a
for another
steak dinner
time.
or something. Yeah.
Well, it looks like well, I'll be out near you at some point. I'll have to shoot you the dates, but it'd be great to meet up and dive deep down that pathway too, the drum pathway. But um, if you, I don't even, we might have to do, if you want, down the road here soon, maybe a part two, because I think we hit on some really important things today. But I have to go soon. I don't want to.
No worries. No worries. No, thank you very much for this
But I
opportunity
think,
to discuss a lot of these things. I do want to, just sort of circle back to a little bit of the culture and the stigma. We've got this thing going on that we, to say it's a problem doesn't even work with the definition of the word problem. It's so much more.
yeah.
It's cultural, it's medical, it's scientific, it's sociological, but it is ruining lives that we could stop. And
Well,
that's
with that said, and again, people watching and listening, we had no conversation beforehand about what we were going to talk about. We just knew we had a topic, so we let it free flowing here. So this is not fair that I'm going to ask you this question, but I think you're more than prepared and able to answer. If you were to summarize, if that's the right word, or any words of wisdom, a takeaway message, let's put it that way. If you had a single or a couple of takeaway messages for people who might be dealing with this, or they know somebody who is with a problem like this, what would you advise?
recovery is possible. And no matter what your circumstances are, no matter what has happened to you or what's going on in your life, recovery is possible. It's something that can be learned. It's not the stereotypes you might think about, sitting around in a depressing room with people saying the Lord's Prayer. Uh, the options are pretty much limitless nowadays. And in recovery, you can reinvent yourself. You can become the person you were always meant to be and step into the full potential of the greatness of your life. Now, in 2018, Carl, I wrote in my first version, the first version of my last book. It's been through a couple of editions.
Beautiful.
But in 2018, I wrote, if a respiratory infection like the SARS COVID that we had seen back in 2010 or early 2000s or something,
Yeah, like
if
swine
that
flu or
came
something.
along and
Yeah.
started killing 1,000 people a week, the way addiction was back then, what do you think would happen? Yeah, the
Yes. Yes.
CDC,
We be on
the
it.
government, the resources, all the experts would be brought to bear to basically declare war on that problem. Then came
Yeah.
COVID. I wrote that in 2018.
No kidding.
And
Yeah. Yeah. To
all that happened to the addiction problem was that it just got worse as a result of COVID. It is a national tragedy. It is one of the worst problems facing our nation. And so let me just wrap it up after this. What if a foreign power or terrorist organization was doing to us what addiction is? What would people say? What would the response be? What would the reaction be?
yeah.
Yeah, puts it
That's
in a different light.
sadly, that's a great question, but sadly we know the answer to that. But for the addiction thing, it's a completely different deal because it's on the rise. And I don't want to diss the community of medical people. My son's an MD, he's a PhD. The doctor upstairs here he doesn't want to see you when you're sick. He wants to see you when you're healthy and not give you a bunch of pills. But not every doctor's that way, and there's time and place for medications. Just make that perfectly clear. But I think that if you watch, you know what? Just watch the series Dope Sick. Did you see that one?
I'm
If anyone,
familiar with
yeah,
the
if you
story.
haven't
Yeah,
seen it, I don't know that it's the best thing out there, but it really hit home with me. It's 8 episodes. Michael Keaton
yeah.
plays the role of a doctor who gets the license pulled because he's an addict and he's prescribing. But basically, the thing is that the the I'm not going to go down conspiracy, and we have to go in a minute. But Big
I,
Pharma and all that, they want to
I
make
meant the
money.
guy they based the Michael Keaton character on.
Oh, really? No
Yeah,
kidding, no
yeah.
kidding.
I'll tell you
Oh
about
my
that
gosh, we'll have
offline.
to talk about that some other time. Yeah, that's very interesting. But these things are, for a lot of people, they're pretty easy to get still. And if it's, not going to the liquor store or to the marijuana shop or wherever you go, I don't know. But there is, it is being fed into and by some medical out there and pharma and this and that, and sadly, it's creating more of a problem. And I can't say anything more. I don't know enough to say.
The
But I
many
know
moving parts,
yeah, there
Carl.
are.
That's
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Well, listen, Keith, thanks. Where can people buy your book? First of all, I know it's on
Oh,
Amazon.
thank you. The Infinite Recovery Handbook is available
Yes.
on Amazon and select brick and mortar bookstores. I also have a website, which is www.infiniterecovery.org.
Yep.
And you can find us on Facebook through the website or by going to Facebook, Infinite Recovery Support and Discussion.
It's fantastic. It's really, really extremely well put together. Beautiful body of work.
I appreciate that so much, Carl. Thank you for this
so go
opportunity.
get the book. Go to his site. If people want to reach you, are you reachable? How can they best reach you? Might it be through the site or
Keith at infiniterecovery.org.
There it is. Okay,
Easy.
You got it. Okay, and stay with me for a minute when we hang up. But first of all, Keith, thanks a million for being here. I really appreciate the time.
Thank you.
This was
important stuff. I appreciate the
moving,
opportunity to get the message out.
It was moving for me. Maybe think about a lot of things again. And I'm real happy with where I'm at. So I'm happy to say that you made me happier. But not everyone's happy with where they're at. But knowing that I love what you wrote here, that recovery is a skill that can be learned from anyone. That right there is true, powerful, relevant, and I'm thinking about that. And for other things too, I just think this is so great. So you're a wealth of knowledge and information, and appreciate you sharing this, and thank you again.
Thank you.
And to all who are watching and listening, thank you very, very much. And again, if you would like to help us grow this program, this channel, and get this great education out there, please just, if you're on YouTube, hit subscribe. If you're on another platform, maybe just hit follow. And we can help another person. We'd be very happy about that. So, thank you. Have a great day. Take care.